Good day, students. Welcome to Diploma in Pre and Junior Primary Education, Mother Tongue Literacy Development 3. This is your content-based session, and I am Shara Kavihuha. I'll be your tutor for 2019. Well, firstly, we're going to start with the welcome remarks. Please note that this module is written and studied in English. All the aspects that will be discussed are equally applicable to mother tongue instruction, even though it is based in English. You will be expected to respond to the assignment as well as the examination papers in English, but you may also apply this knowledge to mother tongue teaching. The first aspect under Mother Tongue 3 is children's literature. We are looking at children's literature purpose and format. Children's literature is very important as it motivates readers to think, it enhances language, and very important, children's literature promotes cognitive development. Cognitive development provides learners with the opportunity to respond to literature and develop their own opinions about the topic. Cognitive development has to do with the knowledge development, how they acquire knowledge and develop or grow through it. This strengthens the cognitive development domain as it encourages deeper thought about literature. Secondly, it teaches them appreciation, to appreciate their own cultural heritage as well as those of others. Mainly in a multicultural and multilingual society like Namibia, children's literature is very important as it will help promote their sense of appreciation about their own heritage as well as those around them. Thirdly, it helps them develop emotional intelligence and creativity. Emotional intelligence is to understand the difference between good and bad, knowing that this will hurt another person's feelings, so I wouldn't try this. I would rather do moral or good deeds that will develop emotional benefit to all the learners in your class, as well as creativity in sense of being able to link the past to the present and develop further for the future. Fourthly, it nurtures growth and development of the learner's personality, as I have indicated under emotional intelligence, social skills, able to work with others, to be an extrovert person where you interact with everybody. Children's literature can also help them develop into caring, most important, caring, intelligent, and friendly people, as well as it transmits important literature and theme from one generation to another. They tend to learn what used to happen in the past and what is happening now. So they learn to distinguish or to extract the good from the bad of the past and link them to the current. Children's literature is very important as it serves five main purposes. Promote cognitive development. It teaches them to appreciate their own cultural heritage and those of others. It helps them develop emotional intelligence and creativity. Fourthly, it nurtures growth and development of the learners. And lastly, it transmits important literature and themes from generation to generation. Second aspect under Mother Tongue 3 is how to select suitable reading text for pre-primary and junior primary learners. As a teacher, it is very important to select the most suitable reading text, as this will create interest and great participation of the learners in the content that is presented to them. So, you as a teacher need to consider the learner's physical, cognitive, language and moral development, as well as their interests and preferences, in terms of selecting the suitable reading text for pre-primary as well as for junior primary. Now, this is fully covered in your study guides for junior primary as well as for pre-primary. You need to understand these following questions and aspects to consider. Mainly the physical ability of the child. Some children are disabled, so you must consider this when selecting suitable reading text. Cognitive ability. Some of them are very slow in terms of cognitive development. The language aspect, that most of them are going to be taught in English, which is a second or third language to most in a country like ours, Namibia, as well as moral developments. It's very important. Now, NB, does the book provide an exciting journey into the world of discovery? This is the question that you as a teacher ask yourself in terms of selecting suitable reading text for your learners. Having considered the other aspects I just mentioned, don't forget the physical, cognitive, language, and moral development. Having asked that question, you look at picture book stories. It's good at that age where the learners are in pre-primary or junior primary. Picture books or storybooks are very important. They learn fast when they see. Non-fiction picture books, covering a wide range of topics. Some should be non-fiction books for young learners that provide help with solving problems, such as starting school, a divorce, death in the family, a new sibling. These are all common issues around them. So this will make it easy for them to have interest in the text at hand, as it now provides them with issues on how to solve common issues around themselves. Having considered these different aspects, there are a few factors that you as a teacher must consider when selecting books for the learners. The first question you need to ask yourself is the author knowledgeable about the subject? The author of the book that you would like to use in your classroom. Is the author knowledgeable about the subject? Does the text keep your learners' interest by being clear and simple? Very important. Interest is an important aspect. Otherwise, when the learners are bored, they will not concentrate. And if they do not concentrate, they are not learning anything. Do the illustrations support the text? Does the subject matter hold interest for your learners, as question number 2 has it? Question to ask as you are busy searching for the right books. Are the books we are choosing going to provide enjoyment, an overall positive experience, and teach them something along the way? Very important. They must enjoy, but also learn in the same vein. Will it get them asking appropriate questions? Or is it just something you are interested in, you read to them, but they don't understand what is going on, therefore they don't ask questions? So you must make sure that this story or a book that you are selecting, the text at hand, is very interesting, that at the end of the reading, the learners may ask questions. Will you be able to draw from it or transition into other activities, which is mostly the common goal of a teacher? It must be able to transit into other activities, like a reading comprehension text, like a role play. So look at all these aspects. Does the book contain large, simple pictures free of distraction? Too many details confuse youngsters. So make sure that it has large pictures, it is free of distraction, so that at least they can see pictures and then they can also see some content, but not too much of the information at hand. When there's too much information, it will distract them. So they need to see and read at the same time, so that whatever they have read can be seen in the pictures. To continue, are the pages easy to turn? Like we have said in the beginning of this presentation here, that some learners are physically disabled, so they cannot be challenged when it comes to turning of pages. So have a look at that. Does the book contain large, simple pictures free of distraction, and the pages are easy to turn? They are board books for toddlers or children who have physical handicap. Allow learners who have not developed fine motor skills to turn the pages. So bear all this in mind as you are selecting the suitable material for reading. To continue selecting books, another question: is the text written in a fast-moving plot with a positive enclosing? Children's books often have a happy ever after ending. So have a look at this. Make sure that it is an interesting text at hand. It's going to teach them something, some sort of moral. The story of the jackal and the wolf would always teach them some moral aspects. Will an adult enjoy reading the book? It's a very important question, because we expect the parents to help the learners at home with their reading activities. Now, if the parent is not enjoying the book, so the purpose of the reading task as homework will not be fulfilled. So consider that in mind when selecting books for your class. Will an adult enjoy the reading book? To make sure that they support the learners with their reading activities at home. Does the book help learners think about good values? Make sure that the book helps learners think about good values, because that is ultimately what we want to promote, a good generation. In addition, is the book free of all bias, including age, gender, and race? Please, very, very important within our society. As I have said, a multilingual and a multicultural society. it's important that we promote reading as well as activities in the classroom that are free of all bias in terms of age, gender, and race. What is the repetitive quality of the book? That is this one the learner will request being read to several times? So what is the repetitive quality of the book? It's a good question. Will the learners want to hear from this book all the time? Will they be nagging, "Ma'am, please, can you read to us the story of the Three Little Pigs?" Because it was interesting, it was free of bias, it has taken into consideration all the learners' interest in the class. Does the language contain rhyming words, funny characters, and an interesting plot? Sometimes a surprise or predictable closing. This is also a powerful question to consider when selecting books for your learners in pre-primary as well as primary. As a teacher, you must consider the language. Does it rhyme? So that it catches with the learner's understanding. It's easy for them to repeat what they have heard. To continue. Reading methods. Reading methods are powerful methods that all teachers should decide on when presenting to their learners. Which method are you going to use? So teachers should decide on suitability of the methods. Methods may be combined or used separately. It doesn't matter because there is no best method over the other. All methods are very important. All that is needed is for the teacher to consider the most appropriate method for the lesson. And teachers should be creative when teaching reading. Therefore, they can consider either to make use of the phonics method, the look and say method, the language experience, and the context support method. As we have said with point number 2, methods may be combined, and I think that is the most useful way, but there's no best way. It all depends on you as a teacher. Which method are you comfortable with? Or most importantly, which method is suitable for your lesson presentation for that day? So the 4 main methods are the phonics method, the look and say method, language experience, and then the context support. The phonics method. This is known as the best method of teaching reading. During the phonics method, learners should be taught the alphabet first. Phonics has to do with the sound. The phonics, the sound of the letters. So first they need to know the alphabet. They must be taught the alphabet. They learn the alphabet letters and their sounds. Very important, the method relies on the knowledge of the alphabet and learn to blend them together. So first thing, teach the learners the alphabet. Let them know the alphabet from A to Z. All the 25 letters of the alphabet, get them to know them. And then very important, get them to also know how to sound them. Let them sound them. A, that is the letter. The sound, A. And then you move on to B, B, C, K. So at the end of the day, once they have the alphabet, then now they are able to have their sounds. And very important, they must learn to blend them, to put them together, as in K, A, T, K, A, T. Then that becomes cat. So this is how the phonics method works. So it's recommended that you further read in your study guides for more examples on the phonics method. It's a very important method. As we have said with point number 1, it is known as the best method for teaching reading. Knowledge applied to both familiar and unfamiliar words. That is a good thing about phonics. This knowledge you can apply to familiar words as well as unfamiliar words. When the learners come across an unfamiliar word like program, they will be able to read it out because they are going to blend the words. They are going to blend the sounds. P, R, O, G. Then they have the sounds together, and finally they have a word called program. So this knowledge of the phonics is applied to familiar and unfamiliar words. Somehow it could be boring, but if it's well instructed, it's well applied by the teacher during the course of the year, it is a very beneficial method. The second method is known as the look and say method, or it is also known as the whole word, whole language approach method. Look and say, it speaks for itself. The method says look and say. Teachers use this method to teach learners to recognize a whole word or sentence. Learners say the word after the teacher. Cat, and then the whole class, cat. Sit, and the whole class, sit. On the table. So this is how you are teaching them how to read. through the look and say method. Whereas our first method is known as the phonics method. You teach them sound. You teach them the letters and then they blend them. This method, as we have said, it helps them to deal with familiar and unfamiliar words. Now look at the look and say method. Here, you as the teacher, you teaches the learners to recognize the whole word or sentence. The learners say the word after the teacher. During the look and say method, flashcards with individual words written on them are used, accompanied by the word. So on a flashcard is where you write the word cat, and then you show it to the class, and you read it to them, cat, and they repeat after you, cat. What's happening? They look and then they say, because the word is written on the flashcards. It is also known as a very weak method when it comes to teaching reading, because this method cannot be applied without the picture. So it becomes a very weak method of teaching reading. Once the picture is removed, then the learner will not know that this is a cat, because all the time you present the picture of the cat and then you say cat. So now if you remove the picture, then the learner is unable to read the word. So it is not a good method without pictures. Learners make wild guess. They make wild guess if there are no pictures. So their reading takes long. It's a good method, yes, you can use it, but it will take long for them to become good readers. As without pictures, they cannot find the word, and then they end up making guesses. Looking at the picture of a cat, just because it has some fur, then they can claim it's a lion. It's a lioness. It's a cat. It's a giraffe. They will just be guessing. Therefore, it is encouraging the role of memorizing, the rote learning, as we call it. It's really a weak method, but you can use it knowing that it takes long. So I want you to read more on it and decide on which method to use, and also decide where it will be suitable. Like I have said, each and every method is very useful. It's very useful at different lessons, during different lesson presentations. All I'm highlighting here is for you to know that these are the benefits and these are the disadvantages. It encourages memorizing. So they need to memorize that cat, it's C-A-T or K-A-T, but they are not learning how to read, they are only memorizing. Good, to continue. The language experience is another method, the third method. We looked at the first one, the phonics method, the look and say second. Now we are looking at the language experience. Here, learners use their own words to help them learn to read. Interesting. Learners draw pictures, and from the pictures, they come up with their own words. What did you draw? It's a tree. Then they read tree. Here, teachers write underneath the learners' drawings. Can you see that? So this is what we say, that the language experience, learners use their own words to help them learn how to read. Learners are expected to draw pictures of trees, houses, mother, father, whatever they can think of, and then the teacher will approach and ask, what did you draw here, Mary? It's a tree. Then the teacher writes underneath the tree the word tree. You compile the pictures into a book for learners to read again and again. So this is another interesting way of teaching them how to read. And it is creativity. It is own work. They have done this themselves. Language experience, as you can see, their own experience of language. They draw pictures, and then what happened with the pictures? The teacher writes underneath the picture based on what the learners are telling the teacher. So it's their own work. After that, you compile these pictures and create a book that they will read over and over. The language experience supports concept development and vocabulary. Very interesting. It's a powerful method in addition to the phonics method. It supports the concept development and vocabulary. As we have said, they draw the pictures, and underneath the picture, the teacher writes what the picture represents, and this is all compiled into a book, and they keep on reading over and over. Through that, they're developing their concept of vocabulary, the different type of words. The last one that we are looking at is what we call the context support method. It is not part of the reading methods. The three reading methods are done. We have the phonics, the look and say, and then the language experience. All these are fully covered in your study guides, the junior primary as well as the pre-primary. Both of your study guides consist of the reading methods that any teacher can use. There are three of them: the phonics, the look and say, and the language experience. Now, it's all up to you to read with understanding, making sure you understand all the three, and when you are to present to your learners, you select the most suitable method. This method depends on the lesson of the day. What is it that you would like to present to them? Then you decide to use the phonics, or the language experience, or the look and say method. Now, we're moving on looking at the context support method. The context support method is whereby the teachers select books that interest the learners. This concept has been presented on before. Earlier this morning, I started off by looking at the questions that you should ask when selecting the appropriate text, a suitable text for your learners. And the keyword was interest. So the same thing when you come to context support method, the teacher should select books that interest the learners. Interest is very important because it keeps them going. Consider the gender interest of the learners. Books that are suitable for boys as well as for girls. Books with learners' interest encourages enthusiasm. When the learners are able to see cars and balls and what else do the boys like? So the interest of the male, the boys in the class, would be aroused. And the same will happen to the girls if they happen to see a lot of dolls and flowers, cups. So you must look at the interest of both male and female. The method is used with long and short sentences or combined with other methods. I think the key secret when it comes to teaching methods in terms of reading, it's very important to combine them. But then also again, it's powerful to make use of each method where it is suitable. Now here we're looking at the context support. You're trying to support the context. So what do? You look at the interest of the boys and the girls. Contextual clues. This is a very important aspect when you are teaching the pre-primary and primary learners, because they are just learning how to read. So their reading must be supported by the context. How? First, with the previous slide, like we have said, it must be supported by the interest. Let there be some pictures, let there be some information that represent the interest of boys as well as girls. And then another important aspect is the clue. Let there be some clue to guide them on the meaning of the words or the phrase within the text that they are reading. This is what we are referring to as contextual clues. Readers use hints in the text to get an idea about the meaning of an unfamiliar word. This is where contextual clues comes in. Context and then the clue. The clue is the hint, an idea on an unfamiliar word. Context clues allow the readers to cross-check their identification of words. The reader should always cross-check to be sure that the word makes sense in terms of syntactic as well as semantic clues. We are talking about contextual clues, dealing with unfamiliar words within a text. So what should happen? The reader should apply context clues. This can be either syntactic or semantic, as we have said. There are now 3 different types of context clues that the junior and pre-primary learners may use through the guideline or the assistance of their teacher. So you as a teacher must make sure that you apply this clues when teaching them how to read. The semantic, which is also known as the meaning clue, the syntactic, which is also known as the word order, or lastly the picture clue. Contextual clues that can assist learners to identify words continue. The first one, as we have said, is semantic. Semantic has to do with meaning, expectation about the subject. You expect to hear words associated with an object within the text. For example, when the text is about a cat, this is what you're expecting. So you're looking for hints, guides on what the text is about. The cat is sitting on the table. Okay, so you are trying to find a hint on this aspect. So then you have a sound that has to do with that. And this is where it gives you the idea of what you're looking at. The syntactic, which is the word order clues. Here, word order in the sentence is very important. It indicates the part of the speech of the missing word, example, the verb, the noun, or other parts of speech that may not make sense. Syntactic has to do with word order, while semantic has to do with the meaning. The meaning of what you're talking about in the text. The syntactic has to do with the word order within the text at hand, where you're focusing on the verbs and the nouns within the text, just to guide you on what the article is about. The picture clue. The picture clue is an interesting one because it has to do with illustrations that can help you identify words. So this is where we say illustrations can help in word identification. If a picture accompanies a text, the word that describes it may be appropriate. So it's picture clue. The picture will give a clue. Semantic clue has to do with the meaning within the text. Syntactic clue has to do with the word order within the text. To move on, we are looking at the steps that can be used to help learners organize their stories. As now you are teaching them how to read, you have applied the context, you have applied the teaching method that helped them read, so now they are busy to arrange stories of their own. So what happened? There are 6 steps involved. There are 6 steps involved when teaching learners to organize their stories. Step 1 up to 6. Step 1, read 3 well-known fairy tales to the learners. Very important, select short stories that learners already know. That is step 1. You read 3 well-known fairy tales. You choose short stories that learners already know. Why are you selecting the ones that they already know? For the interest's sake, as we have said. And step 2, ask the learners to identify the characters in the story, and then you write this on the board. Step 3, ask the learners to identify the beginning, the middle, and the ending of the story. And then what do? You write this on the board so that they can follow. They are busy arranging their stories. So the first thing, you select well-known stories, and then you ask them to identify the characters, and then you ask them to write the beginning, the middle, and the end of the story. Step 4, you hand out pencils and paper. Then you instruct each and every learner to write a story with characters beginning, middle, and end. We are busy organizing stories. Step 5, write story prompts. Some learners may have difficulty studying, but you need to support them. You need to motivate them to start. Once upon a time, one day, or yesterday, or tomorrow, you prompt, you assist them with the beginning of a story. Step 6, talk to each learner about his or her story after the story is written. Ask about characters beginning, middle, and end, just for them to tell you the story in relation to what they have written. So this is how you can assist them in organizing, arranging their stories. There are 6 steps involved. Step 1, as you can see, you read 3 well-known stories. You ask them to identify characters, and then you ask them to write the beginning, the middle, and the end, and you hand out pencils, let them write their own stories. From there on, you prompt them to start because it's difficult as they are learning, and lastly, you talk about it. Activities to develop pre-writing skills. Now we are moving on to the writing after looking at the reading. Activities to develop pre-writing skills among pre-primary as well as primary learners. This is all covered in your study guide. I'm just giving you hints and ideas on where to start to guide you in terms of your reading. Activities to develop pre-writing skills among the pre-primary and primary learners are to make sure that learners use lacing and sewing. Learners will string macaroni on string or wool and sewing with heavy thread and plastic needles. These are activities to develop pre-writing skills among the pre-primary. It's first time for them to learn how to write. So how do you make them practice? How do you develop their pre-writing skills? This is where lacing and sewing comes in. You let them string macaroni on string wool, and then you sew them using heavy plastic needles. Pre-primary children can handle large macaroni, while primary age learners can sew smaller noodles. This is for them to practice because we are busy developing pre-writing skills. In addition to lacing and sewing, using tweezers. Pick up small objects or small macaroni with tweezers and place them in a container will strengthen the finger and the hand muscles necessary for later writing skills. Gradually reduce the size of the container opening. Through that, they are practicing their writing skills. So first thing, lacing and sewing. Second thing, using the tweezers. Third, pre-writing activities. Now at least the muscles have developed from the lacing and the sewing, as well as from the tweezers. Now they're busy with pre-writing activities. This encourages appropriate finger control. Break crayons and chalk into small pieces so that the child has to hold the pieces with the fingertips. Encourage imitating writing shapes from a model. For some children, using an easel or other vertical surface is helpful in strengthening the whole arm and hand. For others, light weights may need to be added to the rest to promote further strengthening. So basically, we are looking at activities that can be used within the classroom to develop the learner's pre-writing skills. Make use of lacing and sewing, where you make use of the macaroni, or using tweezers to pick up small objects, or the pre-writing activities, the model, where they are busy practicing. In addition to practicing how to write, now we are moving on to the correct grip of a pencil. How should they hold their pencil? They have practiced their muscles, they develop pre-writing skills through the lacing and sewing, through picking up using tweezers. So now we are moving on to correct pencil grip. How can they hold the pencil grip? You as a teacher may place the color markers on the shaft of the pencil to show where to place the thumb and index finger of the learners. This is your task as you are now teaching them how to correct pencil grip. Explain why it is important to change their pencil grip to improve the quality and quantity of writing. This is very important for them to understand why should they place the color markers on the shaft of the pencil. In addition, focus on one point at a time is a very important aspect. Let them focus on one point at a time because they are learning how to hold a pencil, and this will ultimately result in good writing skills, good handwriting practice. Try using a triangular shaped pencil, especially good for those just learning how to write, you see. Use a triangular shaped pencil, place the color markers on the shaft, explain the importance of changing their pencil grip. Molded pencil grip. This molded pencil grip aids, they can help improve the handwriting and building confidence for most learners. Most learners' confidence is built through the molded pencil grip. So as a teacher, make sure that you apply the following steps in order to help the learner with a correct pencil grip. You place the color markers on the shaft, you explain the importance, you let them focus on one point at a time, and you try to use triangular pencil. Coordination is another very important aspect. Coordination is very important. Fingers and hand strength are key strength in being able to hold a pencil. So coordination is very important in addition to molded pencil grip, triangular shaped pencil, and the focus on one point at a time, in addition to placing color markers on a shaft. All these are the characteristics or the most important steps to follow when teaching learners the correct pencil grip approach. Pencil grip continue. The ideal pencil grip is with a thumb, index and middle fingers holding the pencil. Those three fingers can move freely during writing because the ring and the little finger are curled gently into the palm, giving the hand stability. So this is very important, and I'm emphasizing again that go back to your study guides. Don't only rely on this presentation slides. They are only guides, they are only hints on what is fully covered there to arouse your interest in further reading. So when you go to your study guides, you will find pictures on how the pencil should be gripped by the learners in terms of clearly demonstrating the thumb, index and middle finger holding of the pencil. Assessment. Assessment is a very important aspect in any education system. Pre-primary, primary, secondary, as well as tertiary. Assessment is a very important aspect and it should be handled with great care. The concept assessment itself. What is assessment? Assessment refers to the continuous monitoring of the competencies of learners through observation or testing. So assessment is very important. It is the only feedback that the parents, the teachers, and the learners themselves have in terms of their progress in the learning and teaching process. So the concept or the definition, you can call it a definition or the concept, in line to questions such as what is the concept assessment or define assessment. So it's simple as assessment refers to the continuous monitoring of the competencies of learners through observation or testing. What is the purpose of assessment? Assessment is very important. It is to gain reliable and valid information of the learner's performance in the competencies at each and every grade or level, at pre-primary level as well as primary level. The purpose of assessment is to determine their performance within the competencies, the alphabet, the writing, and the speaking, as well as listening. The purpose of assessment continues. It is to inform the parents about the progress, which is the weakness of the learners, as well as the achievements, the strength of the learners. It's a very important aspect. Parents are investing a lot in their learners' education, so they need feedback. And you can only give feedback after assessment. That is why assessment is very important in terms of providing or informing the parents the performance, the weaknesses and strength of their children. It is also a very important aspect to inform you as the teacher of the problems experienced in the learning progress of your learners. So assessment is not only for the parents, not only for the Ministry of Education, but for you as the teacher as well, as it will inform you the problems experienced during the learning and teaching process. This can help you revise your lesson. Go back, where did you go wrong? Most of the learners fail to understand the alphabets, perhaps, so you need to go back. And you can only identify this through assessment. Assessment evaluates the teaching and learning process in order to adapt your methods, as I have said. Very, very important. It really helps you so that you know that the method that I have used, the look and say method, did not bring fruitful results. So I'm going to apply the phonics method next time to make sure that most of my learners do understand their reading. So it's a very important aspect to evaluate the teaching and learning process. To continually improve the working atmosphere and achievement of the class. And I'm sure this is the goal of all teachers. Our goal is to make sure that we improve the working and the achievement of the learners. Assessment for learning versus assessment of learning. So assessment is very, very important. What is the purpose? It is to assess to make sure that the learners are learning. Assessment for learning. Assessment of learning. It's very important to look at the two aspects. So the purpose of assessment is to gain reliable and valid information of the learner's performance within the different competencies. It is also to help you as the teacher to modify the different methods to use within the class. And lastly, it's very important to help the parents know the weaknesses and strength of their learners. There are two types of assessment. The informal assessment, which involves setting up assessment situations such as quizzes, short tests or oral tests and worksheets at the end of each and every unit or chapter. This is informal. It is continuous. It's within the class. It is important for teachers to plan in order to assess the learners and give marks. Informal assessment, setting up assessment situations such as a quiz, a short test, or an oral or worksheet during the class. That is informal. The other one is known as the formal assessment. It involves observation of each learner's progress in learning and practice situations, while they are investigating, interpreting phenomena and data, applying knowledge, communicating and making value judgments, and in their participation in general. Learners are observed for assessment during lessons and marks are awarded. Formal assessment involves observation of each learner's progress in learning and practice situations while they are investigating knowledge, communicating and making value judgment. Have a look at that, go back to your study guide, emphasize on the difference between formal and informal assessment, and make sure that you understand them very well for you to apply them during your class. It will help you get the fruit or the feedback that you need. Another important aspect as the content of this course is entitled Mother Tongue Literacy 3. Now here we are looking at mother tongue written materials used for developing teachers' own and learners' writing skills. Mother tongue written materials to develop writing skills for both the teachers and the learners. Which are these materials? You are expected to go out there and get many storybooks and teaching aids in the mother tongue, in which you will be teaching to assist your children to learn to read and write in their mother tongue. So if you are teaching in Oshiherero, you need to go out and get materials in that specific language, Silozi or Oshindonga or Shikwanyama. So it's very important to get as many storybooks and teaching materials to assist you within the subject that you are teaching. Then, after you have collected or gathered all this information from the community, you compile your own storybooks from these stories, which the children tell you in class, and the ones that you have collected within the community, and they will enjoy this very much. They can help to illustrate the stories as well. So it's very important to go out, collect this, as well as ask the learners in class to share stories with you. You compile them and you make use of them in class. Get in touch with some older people. This is very helpful. Oral literature, as we call it. Get in touch with some older people in the community. Ask them to tell stories to the children. Then you write these stories down and compile a storybook. These are powerful stories. The old people have interesting stories that teaches a lot of morals to our children. So before they leave this planet, we need to consult them. And then what we do for the future generation, we compile them, we write them down. Reading assessment models. Reading loud is the first one. Reading assessment models. You can either read loud, but know that it's not a reliable indicator of reading ability. Learner who is able of understanding text when reading silently may stumble when given to read aloud. Reading loud rarely done outside the classroom, so it is not authentic as a method of assessment because it does not test the learner's ability to use reading to accomplish a goal. So reading loud is not a reliable indicator of reading ability. So reading assessment models, one of them can be reading loud, but know that it is a weak one. It is not authentic. However, it can help teacher assess if the learners can see word endings and other grammatical features. That's the good thing of reading loud. Comprehension question. Reading assessment models, there are 3 of them. Reading loud, comprehension question number 2, which is used to test understanding of what is read. Comprehension questions. Comprehension has to do with understanding. So comprehension questions are used to test understanding of what is read. It should be coordinated with the purpose of reading. Readers should have a purpose before reading. And then, very important, it allows learners to review questions before reading. And lastly, when reading is for enjoyment, comprehension is not applicable. So we mainly use comprehension when reading is for understanding. They read the article and then respond to the questions that follow. C, authentic assessment. Reading aloud, comprehension, and then now we have authentic assessment. Here, reading must reflect real life uses. Authentic. Reading must reflect real life uses. It must have a purpose other than assessment, meaning it is meant for enjoyment, it is meant for understanding, learning purposes. So it is not necessarily only for test. Learners must demonstrate understanding by completing a task. Consider response in a non-classroom situation. For example, after the learners have read the weather report in class, the learners may decide on the clothing to wear the next day to represent the weather forecast that they have read in class. Ways to improve learners' writing is another very important or crucial aspect. Ways to improve learners' writing. Number 1, positive feedback. You must give positive feedback to the learners. Engage your learners in revision process by discussing the mechanics of writing. 3, incorporate writing into fun activities. 4, ask your learners to help you make lists and record messages. Ways to improve learners' writing. Writing is a crucial aspect, and writing follows reading. So good readers become good writers. So what happens to motivate or encourage good writing is only when you give positive feedback to the learners. When you engage the learners in revision process after they have written, go through the work with them, let them know where they went wrong, and then you incorporate writing into fun activities. Don't rush the writing. Don't rush the writing. Writing is not a product, it is a process. So let them go through it slowly, making sure that they understand how to write the beginning, which is the introduction, the middle, which is now the content of your article or your short story, and then lastly the conclusion. It is a process, not a product. So do not rush the writing. Make sure your learners have a quiet place to write and help them gauge how long it will take to compile a writing assignment. If there's a need, get extra help. Get extra help. Recognize when extra help is needed so that at least the learner's writing is improved. Often learners respond well to having a personal writing tutor. So if you realize that specific learners in class are challenged when it comes to their writing, there's a lot of grammatical errors, I think you need a tutor to come in and have a writing corner with them so that they can go through this process. As I have said, it is a process, it is not a product. So it's not a matter of getting over it, but making sure that they understand the whole process of writing. Children literature is very important, as we have looked at it in the beginning, that it passes on from one generation to another. It also helps them understand the difference between the different cultural heritage. And in addition to that, it provides learners with the opportunity to respond to literature. It teaches them to appreciate about their own cultural heritage as well as those of others. This is what we have looked at. It is just a brief summary of what we have said in the beginning of our presentation. It's a very crucial aspect when it comes to Mother Tongue 3, has to do with literature, which is the reading, and from reading is where writing develops. So I had to bring back this slide to emphasize on the importance of children's literature. It provides learners with the opportunity to respond to literature. It teaches them to appreciate about their own cultural heritage and those of others. It helps them develop emotional intelligence and creativity. It nurtures growth and development, and lastly, it transmits important literature and themes from one generation to the other. Writing continues. Classroom practices for early writing skills. Make sure that your classroom is well stocked with writing center with a variety of paper and writing tools. Classroom practices for early writing skills. For pre-primary and primary, there must be enough writing materials within their class. So make sure you have a well-stocked writing center where there's a variety of paper and writing tools, as well as other materials that support their writing development, such as computer usage, art center, a rich writing material room. We are looking at practices that assist or help writing skills amongst the pre-primary and primary learners. Ways in which teachers can motivate learners to read is also very crucial. Reading and writing develops literature. So which are these ways that teachers can use to motivate learners to read? Now you as a teacher, you need to demonstrate passion for reading. You must act as a role model, meaning you must read a lot. Enjoy reading. As a teacher, if you enjoy reading, your learners will also enjoy reading. So this is where we say act as model readers. Link reading with learners' interests and goals. Encourage learners to use learned reading strategies when they are not sure about the text. Number 4, encourage learners to use learned reading strategies when they are not sure about the text. Which are these strategies we are talking about? It takes us back to what we looked at, the contextual clues. So it's very important to go through all these slides as well as your study guides and read with understanding. Each and every unit is linked to the other. We are talking about you need to encourage learners to use learned reading strategies. Which are these learned strategies? Back to what we said, syntactic, semantic, and picture clues. Make learning meaningful, taking into account age and interest. This we have mentioned, that when selecting suitable text, make sure that it incorporates the interest of the learners in terms of their gender as well as their age. So it's a very important aspect. Provide a rich and varied literacy environment. Make sure that you have different reading materials. You have enough books with a lot of pictures. You have a corner, as we have said, the writing center, where they can have crayons and papers and computers to practice their writing. Give learners opportunities to choose their own reading materials and develop a sense of control over the reading process. So if you have this reading corner with all materials well stocked, it will create an environment where the learners will have great interest in reading as well as writing. So make sure that your classroom is rich with reading materials as well as writing materials. Integrate reading into other activities to show that it is an essential everyday skill. Integrate, put reading into other activities to show that it is an essential everyday skill, such as asking them to bring cornflakes boxes from home, or Oros can or juice after break time. You ask them to read what is written on the juice, and you will see how they are reading it to you. Fruit tree, Oros, whatever is written, the jumbo. This is where now you are integrating reading into other activities to show that it is an essential everyday skill. Lastly, focus on internal reward of personal satisfaction and the achievement of goals that matter to the learners. Focus on internal reward of personal satisfaction and the achievement of goals that matter to the learner. Give credit to motivate them to continue reading, to wanting to read more as they are being rewarded. These are the ways in which you as a teacher can motivate learners to read. How are you able to motivate them? You must demonstrate passion for reading, act as a role model, link the reading with the learner's interest, and the list continue. Significance of colors, numbers, shapes, matching and creating patterns in the development of child's reading. Colors, numbers, shapes, matching and patterns are very important, significant. They are very important in the development of a child's reading. Why? Why are colors, numbers, shapes and matching very important in the development of a child's reading? Colors are a code just as words are a code. So colors are very important when it comes to reading. They will guide or assist with the reading process. Numbers and counting concepts show children how one thing can represent another, as in written text. So colors, numbers, shapes, matching, and creating patterns are very important in the development of a child's reading. Knowing the difference between a circle, a square, and a triangle comes before the recognition of the distinct shapes of letters that must be distinguished in order to read. So these are very, very, very important aspects when you are teaching learners how to read. So incorporate such activities, the matching, the shapes, and the colors, and the use of numbers. Reading requires recognizing patterns. So matching objects or pictures is a way for them to demonstrate that they recognize the similarities in shape or color and they can apply it. We are looking at the significance, as we continue, the significance of colors, numbers, shapes, matching, and creating patterns. For these reasons, practicing these concepts through play builds a great foundation for reading. So in your classroom for pre-primary as well as primary, try to make use of all these activities. Make use of coloring, matching, shaping, and numbering. Did you know that the child was learning to read when they made a pattern of red, blue with their foam clubs? This is exactly what we are talking about. This is just an example I brought in to show you that colors, numbers, and matching are very significant in the development of a child's reading. To familiarize the child with the alphabet, you will have toys that show the letters of the alphabet, sing the alphabet songs to them, and practice the letters in their name. But the idea is that learning to recognize letters and their corresponding sounds is not the only way they are beginning to read. So you need to incorporate numbers, shapes, as well as matching. A crucial aspect in terms of reading is called reading comprehension. Reading with understanding. Reading comprehension to pre-primary as well as primary children is very important. It teaches the children to think about personal experiences that are related to what they are reading. Secondly, to look at the text in order to discover how it has been arranged, which is organized. What happened first, next, and last. Reading comprehension helps to look at pictures and the text to make predictions about what will happen next. To conjure up mental pictures that reflect what they are reading. To make deductions or to draw conclusions about what they are reading. To pay attention to special samples such as punctuation, and to check their understanding often. So basically when we're talking about reading comprehension to primary and pre-primary learners is that they have to read a text and understand it. Through this, the children think about different experiences as elaborated in the text. This can be facilitated by making sure that they look at what happened first in the introduction. Once upon a time, there were 3 little pigs. In the middle, they were sent off by their parents to build their own homes in the forest. And then in the end, there was a big bad wolf. So this is what we're talking about, that reading comprehension is very important because it teaches children to think about personal experiences and also help them to pay attention to the simple samples such as punctuations within the text given to them. Good. Lastly, Erikson's theory of psychosocial development is a very crucial aspect when it comes to reading. There are many theories. A lot of theorists came up with different theories of development. There are a lot of theories. We have the theory of scaffolding. We have a lot of theories, the theory of Piaget. Now, the one that we are focusing on at pre-primary and primary level is Erikson's theory of psychosocial development. He looked at psychological, and social. During each stage of Erikson's theory, the person experiences a psychosocial crisis which could have a positive or negative outcome for personality development. During each stage of the Erikson theory, we are going to look at the stages soon, the person, so in this case, the learner, experiences a psychosocial crisis which could have a positive or negative outcome for personality development. For Erikson's theory, these crises are of a psychosocial nature because they involve psychological needs of the individual, this is the psycho part, conflicting with the needs of society, which is the social. So according to the theory, the successful completion of each stage results in a healthy personality and the acquisition of basic virtues. The basic virtues are characteristic strength which the ego can use to resolve subsequent crises. When you look in your study guide, you will understand more in terms of the psychosocial theory that we are talking about, how the conflict is resolved. Failure to successfully complete a stage can result in a reduced ability to complete further stages and therefore a more unhealthy personality and sense of self. These stages, however, can be resolved successfully later when given attention. Otherwise, damage beyond repair. So it's a very important theory of development. The theory looks as such. The stage 1 is the infancy stage. Stage 2 is known as the early childhood. Stage 3 is the middle childhood. And the last one is the late childhood. Now, this stage has an approximate age and a crisis involved. The crisis is what we were talking about, that when each and every crisis is not well fulfilled, it might result into a negative outcome. So, what is the crisis involved? At the infancy stage, from birth to 18 months, trust and mistrust is involved. At the early childhood, autonomy and doubt. Middle, initiative versus guilt. And the last one is industry versus inferiority. So this is well discussed in our study guide, and I want you to understand mainly each and every stage as well as the crisis involved. Okay. Good summary. Summary writing fully covered on page 36 to 37 in the study guide, but generally in both study guides, pre-primary and primary teaching, summarizes that a good summary should consist of the title, the author, the type of text, and the central concept. Sentences should be organized in a valid process, should exclude any personal interpretation and evaluation. Very important, use the present tense or historical present. Summary should be shorter than the original text. Summary version should contain all important conclusions. No examples should be included in the summary. A summary is just an abridged representation of the original text. Develop learners' introduction, middle, and closure writing is a very important skill. Let them write the topic sentence, sketch out ideas and reasons, give details and examples, draft, then reread and make corrections. Very important, edit your work to check if all ideas are linked to each other. Check for transitional words, capital letters, and punctuations. Then revise your work, proofread, and provide final copy. Very important, write letters, emails to relatives, illustrate stories by themselves. These are all activities that can help develop learners' introduction, middle, and closure writing. They are to be assisted in terms of how to write a topic sentence, how to sketch out ideas and provide examples. Do not forget to edit the work. In the end, I just want you to go back to your study guide, consider the verbs in terms of thinking processes in your study guide, and read each unit with understanding. This presentation is not the alpha and omega of your diploma. This is just a presentation to facilitate your studies. What you need to understand is in your study guide. So make use of this presentation to assist your study guide. You go through these highlights and then you read in details in your study guide. Very important, go back to the verbs, the keywords. When the question in the exam paper or in the assignment is explain, what is to explain? Discuss, analyze, elaborate. This is what I'm talking about or referring to as the verbs of thinking process. Understand the verbs. They are the major keywords in terms of your examination as well as assignments. Get to understand what is to explain, what is to mention, what is to discuss, please. And then I will leave you with that keyword, which is a very important one, that education is the greatest equalizer and there's no crisis can alter the worth of what you know. So it's very important for you to strive in terms of knowing, get to know, acquire knowledge. So go back to your study guide, read your study guide in conjunction with this presentation. Do not only rely on the presentation to prepare for the exams or for the assignments. Read through the slides in conjunction or in collaboration with your study guides. Please, I thank you very, very much.